Welcome to Scoli Sleep Stories. Before we begin, take a moment to get comfortable. Let the day soften around you and settle in for a calm documentary made for curious minds. If these stories help you rest, learn, or simply enjoy a quieter part of the day, please consider liking this episode and subscribing to the channel. Now, when you are ready, let us begin. Chapter 1: The City at Evening. The paving stones still hold the warmth of the day. It rises gently through the soles of your sandals as you walk, though the sun itself has already slipped behind the tiled roofs. For a little while, the western walls keep its color. Their plaster glows in muted shades of cream, ochre, and soft red. Then, almost too slowly to notice, the colors deepen. Details that were clear in the afternoon become quiet shapes beneath the evening sky. You are in a prosperous but ordinary Roman town, somewhere in Italy or along the western Mediterranean coast during the broad centuries of the Roman imperial period. It might be the 1st century, the 2nd, or perhaps the 3rd. The precise year need not trouble you. Towns differ from one province to another, and even neighboring communities have customs of their own. Yet much here would be familiar to travelers from many parts of the empire. There are tiled roofs, open courtyards, public fountains, and streets lined with homes, shops, and workshops. This is not Rome, with its enormous monuments and restless crowds, nor is it a grand imperial capital dressed for ceremony. It is a medium-sized town where merchants know the rhythm of the market, craftspeople recognize one another's work, and news travels easily between the forum, the tavern, and the fountain. During the afternoon, this street would have been busier. Customers would have paused at shop counters opening directly onto the road. Porters would have carried baskets, jars, and folded cloth. Voices would have crossed beneath awnings, while tools sounded from workshops behind the storefronts. Now, most of those shops have closed. Their wide openings are covered by wooden shutters fitted together in sections. At one doorway, a shopkeeper draws the final panel into place. Wood meets stone with a hollow knock. A bar is lowered behind it, followed by a brief scrape, and then stillness. The quiet that follows is not complete. Roman towns do not simply fall silent when daylight fades. Somewhere nearby, bread is being prepared for the coming morning. A baker's work may begin while much of the town is resting. Farther along, a tavern remains open, its doorway casting a narrow band of amber light across the road. Two voices murmur within, too low for you to distinguish the words. A household servant crosses at the end of the lane, carrying a small lantern. Its glow sways with every step. A porter moves behind him with a bundle balanced against one shoulder. From much farther away comes the slow turn of a wheel, followed by the patient footfall of an animal. In Rome itself, restrictions on some daytime cart traffic could shift the movement of wagons into the night. But customs were not identical everywhere, and this smaller town follows rhythms of its own. Here, the distant cart is only one sound among many, soon softened by walls and distance. You continue at an easy pace. The street narrows between two rows of buildings. Its surface is paved, though not perfectly even. Long use has left shallow wheel ruts in some stones, and old moisture darkens the edges of a drain. In another town, or perhaps only a few streets away, you might find raised stepping stones, broad porticos, or a surface made from packed earth rather than fitted paving. Roman streets vary, just as the neighborhoods around them vary. Some are broad routes leading toward gates and public buildings. Others are narrow lanes winding between homes, shops, fountains, and small courtyards. Each street carries the marks of those who have passed along it. A fountain stands where the lane opens into a wider crossing. Water slips from a carved spout into a stone basin worn smooth along its rim. The stream is modest but steady. A woman holds a narrow-necked jug beneath it and waits as the water rises. When the vessel is full, she lifts it carefully, settles its weight, and walks away. For a moment, only the fountain remains. The water makes a low, continuous sound. It gathers the scattered noises of evening into one calm background. Sandals brush against stone. A door closes. Somewhere above the street, a voice calls softly from an upper room. There is no regular blanket of public street lighting. Instead, light gathers in small islands. An oil lamp rests in a wall niche before a neighborhood shrine. Another burns above a private doorway. A candle glimmers behind an upper window, while the lamps of the tavern mark a brighter corner farther back. Between these pools of light, the street is dim. Your eyes adjust. The pale road catches what remains of the sky, and the upper edges of the buildings are still clear. A few early stars appear above the roofs. The air carries the ordinary traces of town life. There is the scent of bread from the baker's quarter, smoke from cooking fires, and a hint of crushed herbs. Near a side lane comes the earthy smell of animals. A drain adds a brief, less pleasant note, but it passes as you move on. Roman towns are neither spotless visions of marble nor places of unending disorder. They are lived-in communities, filled with water, smoke, food, labor, animals, and people. Even now, as the day settles, the town continues its quieter work. Ahead, the road bends. Beyond the corner lies the bathhouse. You cannot yet see its entrance, but you begin to notice a warmer patch of light touching the wall. It is brighter than the glow of a single household lamp, though still subdued. Several flames must be burning within, perhaps in wall niches or suspended lamps. You walk toward that softened light. Many public baths would ordinarily be nearing the end of their day. In numerous towns, they opened sometime in the late morning and served bathers through the afternoon, often closing around sunset. Heating the water and warming the rooms required fuel, attention, and labor. Keeping a bathhouse open was never a casual matter. Yet bathing hours changed according to place and period. Ownership, local rules, seasonal needs, and the available fuel supply could all shape the schedule. Some baths may have opened before dawn, others remained usable after dark. Large numbers of oil lamps have been found in bath buildings at places such as Pompeii. Lamps were useful in dim or windowless interiors, even during the daytime. Their presence also reminds us that Roman indoor life did not always end when the sun went down. Tonight, this bathhouse is open unusually late. Perhaps a local benefactor has paid the evening's expenses as a civic favor. Perhaps a festival has extended the usual hours. Or perhaps a smaller group has been invited after the afternoon crowd has departed. No surviving notice explains this particular evening. There is no need to choose among the possibilities. It is enough to know that the doors remain open, lamps still burn within, and the furnace has not yet been allowed to cool. You turn the corner. The bathhouse occupies a broad section of the street. It is larger than the neighboring shops, but far smaller than the immense bathing complexes of great imperial cities. Its exterior is practical rather than grand. Plaster covers much of the masonry. High windows admit light while offering privacy, and the roofline rises in several levels above the rooms within. The building might remind a modern scholar of medium-sized baths at Pompeii or Ostia, though it reproduces neither place exactly. Roman builders adapted bathhouses to available space, local tastes, and the money provided for construction and upkeep. Some communities possessed elaborate public complexes with gardens, libraries, and vast halls. Others maintained modest neighborhood baths. Wealthy households might have private bathing suites of their own. This bathhouse rests comfortably between those extremes. It is an urban establishment made for regular use, well-maintained but not monumental. Its stone has been worn by many ordinary evenings, many footsteps, and many visits from the people of the town. A pair of oil lamps burns beside the entrance. Each flame rests in a shallow clay vessel, drawing oil through a small wick. The light settles over the doorframe and the worn threshold below it. Faint shadows of soot have gathered above the lamp niches. As you approach, you hear water from somewhere inside. It is not the clear fall of the street fountain. This sound is deeper, softened by enclosed rooms. There is a gentle movement, followed by a lingering echo, then another quiet ripple against stone. A trace of dampness touches the air. Then comes warmth. It reaches the street in a narrow current through the open doorway, carrying faint scents of olive oil, heated masonry, and smoke from the furnace serving the rooms beyond. The mixture is unfamiliar at first, yet mild and earthy. It belongs to warm stone, quiet water, and a building still awake beyond its usual hour. Behind you, the fountain continues its patient flow. A shutter closes somewhere along another street. The distant wheel turns once more and fades. The last color leaves the higher walls, while the lamps beside the bathhouse entrance seem to grow steadier and brighter. Before you, amber light lies across the entrance floor. You take the final few steps without hurry. At the threshold, the cooler evening air meets the warm breath of the bathhouse. One current rests against the other, cool behind you and gently heated ahead. An attendant waits just within, his figure outlined by lamplight. He inclines his head and offers a low greeting. Then he steps aside and invites you through the doorway. Chapter 2. Through the Bathhouse Doors. You cross the worn threshold, leaving the cool street behind. For a moment, the difference is felt more than seen. The air is warmer here, touched by damp stone, olive oil, and a faint trace of smoke from the furnace. The quiet sounds of the town remain close. You can still hear the fountain, a pair of sandals passing, and the wooden closing of a distant shutter. Yet the thick walls soften each sound. In their place comes the muted life of the bathhouse. There is a low exchange of voices, the occasional dip of a vessel into water, and a gentle echo moving through rooms you cannot yet see. The attendant waits beside a simple counter. A small clay lamp rests near his hand. Its flame bends whenever the doorway admits a current of evening air. The counter has been smoothed by years of coins, elbows, and patient conversation. Behind it, shallow shelves hold a few ordinary objects. There are spare lamps, small containers of oil, and several tokens used according to the customs of this particular establishment. The attendant might be called a balneator, a person associated with managing or supervising a bathhouse. The exact duties of a balneator varied. In one place he might collect entrance fees and oversee the rooms. Elsewhere, the work could include arranging fuel, directing attendants, maintaining order, or answering to the owner. Roman occupations like Roman buildings seldom followed one perfect pattern in every town and period. Tonight, his task is simple. He names the fee in a quiet voice. You place a small coin upon the counter. It makes a light sound against the surface, then disappears beneath the attendant's fingers. He gives a nod, and the exchange is complete. Admission to Roman baths was often inexpensive. In some communities, a city official, wealthy citizen, or other patron might pay part of the cost. At times, a benefactor could provide free admission. Such generosity brought practical comfort to the community, while also bringing honor to the person who paid. There was no single price for bathing throughout the Roman world. Fees changed according to the period, the town, the ownership of the bathhouse, and local conditions. Regulations preserved from the mining settlement of Vipasca record bathing hours and differing charges. They offer a valuable glimpse into the customs of one community, but they should not be treated as a rule for the entire empire. Each place arranged its payments and schedules according to its own needs. The same is true of this late opening. Many public baths ordinarily closed around dusk. Heating rooms and supplying water required fuel, labor, and supervision. Burning lamps made the evening more costly as well. This bathhouse may be open late for a special occasion, by arrangement with its owner, or because local custom permits a few additional hours. Perhaps a patron has paid for the lamps and fuel. Perhaps the manager is accommodating visitors whose work ended later than usual. Whatever the reason, the hour is unusual rather than typical. No crowd presses against the counter. Only a few visitors remain, and their voices have settled into the softer tones of evening. The building seems to breathe quietly around them, holding its warmth as darkness gathers outside. Near the lamp, faint writing can be seen upon a patch of plaster. Some letters remain clear, while others have faded until only traces survive. A separate inscription set into the wall records a name, perhaps belonging to someone who contributed to a repair or paid for a public benefit. Rules, prices, schedules, and the names of benefactors could all be announced in writing. They were not necessarily displayed on anything resembling a neat modern signboard. A notice might be painted on plaster or carved into stone. Information could also be proclaimed aloud or simply become familiar through local habit. The attendant follows your glance, then gestures farther inside. The passage is modest. Its floor is formed from small pieces of brick and stone set into firm mortar. Muted red, cream, charcoal, and brown have been darkened by generations of damp feet. There is no grand avenue of marble columns, and no lofty hall extending into shadow. The ceiling is low enough to hold the warmth. Along the walls are the ordinary marks of use and maintenance. One corner has been repaired, another bears a newer layer of plaster. A shallow niche has been darkened by the smoke of a lamp that has burned through many evenings. Roman bathing establishments came in many forms. Smaller baths were often known as balnea. Some were privately owned but remained open to visitors who paid an entrance fee. Larger and more monumental public complexes were generally called thermae. These might be sponsored by emperors or cities, and some became immense landmarks. The famous baths of Caracalla and baths of Diocletian belonged to that monumental tradition. Great complexes could contain high halls, wide exercise grounds, gardens, shaded porticos, shops, food cellars, meeting spaces, and even libraries. Their scale displayed the wealth and resources behind their construction. The building around you is not one of those enormous establishments. It is better imagined as a medium-sized urban bathhouse serving the surrounding neighborhood. It has the essential rooms and services. There is water for washing, space for gentle movement, and a furnace capable of warming the heated chambers. Oil and simple grooming services may be available. There might also be something modest to eat or drink. The decorations are pleasant without being lavish. The rooms are large enough to serve the community, but not so vast that footsteps disappear into distant halls. The scale is familiar to those who come here. The attendant recognizes many of the visitors who cross the threshold, and regular bathers know which floor stones are smoothest beneath their sandals. Elsewhere, baths could be found in other settings. Wealthy houses and country villas sometimes contained private bathing suites. Inns might provide modest facilities for travelers. Estates could maintain baths for their households, while military installations might include bath buildings for those stationed nearby. Designs varied with climate, available water, wealth, engineering, and local building traditions. Here, a second lamp glows within a recess. Its light falls across a basin near the wall, then travels over the damp floor in a narrow amber ribbon. You pause as two visitors pass through the corridor. Their conversation is quiet and ordinary. One carries a folded garment, the other holds a small flask of oil. They nod to the attendant and continue toward the inner rooms, their footsteps fading into softened echoes. Frequent bathing was an important part of ordinary life. A visit could offer much more than washing. Someone might come to warm themselves, exercise, receive grooming, meet an acquaintance, hear local news, conduct a little business, find refreshment, or simply rest for a while away from work and weather. Still, not every Roman bathed every day. Habits were shaped by access, occupation, wealth, health, age, gender, and region. Someone whose work continued from morning until evening might follow a different routine from a merchant whose shop stood nearby. A rural household far from town could not visit an urban bathhouse as easily as someone living only a few streets away. Customs also differed across places and changed over time. Cheap admission could widen access, but it did not erase Roman social distinctions. Status could sometimes be heard in the way people spoke. It could be seen in the attendance they brought, the oils they carried, the leisure they possessed, and the deference they received. Some people entered easily and often, others came only when work, time, and money allowed. Much of the labor that made the bathhouse comfortable was performed by people of low social status. Some were free workers, while others were enslaved and had severely limited choices. They carried fuel, tended lamps, moved water, cleaned floors, assisted visitors, and helped maintain the steady rhythm of the building. The tranquil rooms rested upon this complicated social world. Yet within the modest boundaries of the bathhouse, different lives also crossed the same worn floor. News passed from one bench to another. Familiar faces met in the corridors. Warmth moved through the masonry and gathered in the rooms beyond. The balneator turns the lamp slightly, shielding its flame from another draft. The doorway behind you remains open for a moment longer. Through it, you see a narrow strip of the evening street, cool and blue beneath the deepening sky. Then the attendant points toward a quieter room nearby, where outer garments may be left before proceeding farther into the bathhouse. You follow the warm corridor at an easy pace. With each step, the sounds of the street grow fainter. The fountain becomes little more than a memory of flowing water. The inner pools can still be heard, but their echoes now seem distant, hidden behind thick walls and gently turning passages. Ahead, lamplight reveals wooden benches, rows of wall niches, and the soft rustle of folded clothing. Chapter 3. The Apoditarium. The side room opens quietly before you. This is the Apoditarium, the changing room of the bathhouse. Its name comes through Latin from a Greek-rooted word associated with undressing. No one here pauses to consider the long journey of the term. For visitors entering and leaving, this is simply a practical place between the outer world and the warmer rooms within. The apoditarium is neither entirely cool nor entirely warm. Near the doorway from the entrance corridor, the stone still holds a trace of the evening air. Farther inside, beside the passage leading toward the heated chambers, warmth gathers gently along the floor and walls. The difference is slight, but you can feel it as you cross the room, like passing slowly from shade into mild sunlight. Low masonry benches run along two sides. Their surfaces have been worn smooth by many years of use. Above them, open niches are set into the wall, each one large enough to hold folded clothing and a few personal objects. Some are rectangular, others are capped by shallow arches. Amber lamplight rests within them, making their depths appear softer than the plain stone truly is. Such niches can still be seen in surviving Roman bathhouses. Modern visitors sometimes imagine them as lockers, but they did not necessarily have doors, locks, or keys. A bundle placed inside could remain visible to anyone passing by. The arrangement was convenient, though not perfectly secure. You choose a niche at a comfortable height. For this visit, you have come in a simple tunic, rather than a formal toga. The tunic is an ordinary and plausible garment for moving through a Roman town. Its fabric falls loosely from the shoulders and is gathered or fastened where needed. Roman clothing varied greatly. Materials, colors, decoration, and cut could reflect wealth, occupation, region, local custom, or personal circumstance. Clothing worn in Britain did not always resemble clothing worn in Italy, and fashions changed across centuries as well as across provinces. The toga, so closely connected with Rome in later imagination, was an important formal garment for male Roman citizens, yet it was large, carefully arranged, and not the most convenient choice for every ordinary errand. Many people passing through a bathhouse would have worn tunics, cloaks, work garments, or other clothing suited to their place and time. You loosen the simple fastening at your shoulder. The fabric makes a dry, soft sound as it is lifted away and folded. There is no need to hurry. One edge is brought over the other. The bundle is smoothed once and then placed within the niche. Your sandals remain below, close to the bench. Their leather soles carry a little pale dust from the street. Around the room, other visitors make similar preparations. A bronze clasp catches the lamplight. A belt is coiled and laid upon a folded garment. Someone places a small oil flask beside a towel. Another person leaves a pair of sandals neatly aligned beneath the bench, their toes pointing toward the wall. A wealthier visitor may have brought considerably more. Servants might carry clean clothing, towels, flasks of olive oil, grooming tools, and sandals intended for use inside the bathhouse. A small bronze box could hold personal objects. Combs, pins, tweezers, and curved cleaning instruments might be wrapped in cloth or tied together as a kit. None of these possessions need be especially elaborate, though fine materials and careful workmanship could quietly reveal what their owner was able to afford. A visitor of lesser means may arrive with only a small flask and the clothing already being worn. Some bring no attendant and no special bundle at all. They place their few belongings together and watch the niche as best they can whenever they return through the room. As elsewhere in Roman society, the bathhouse can bring different people beneath the same roof without erasing the differences between them. They may walk across the same worn floor and sit upon the same masonry benches, yet their resources, rights, and experiences are not identical. Safeguarding clothing is a familiar concern. Roman legal writings mention theft at baths, showing that missing garments were not merely the subject of idle complaint. At Aquae Sulis, the site of modern bath in Britain, small inscribed curse tablets were deposited in connection with the sacred spring. Some appealed to divine power after clothing or other possessions had been stolen. The words written on such tablets could be severe, but the everyday trouble behind them was simple. Someone entered the baths, left an item aside, and later found that it had disappeared. There is no disturbance in this apoditarium tonight. The knowledge encourages only a little practical care. You place your smaller belongings beneath the folded tunic rather than near the open edge of the niche. Your sandals remain where you can recognize them easily. Those who could afford assistance had other choices. A bather might bring a personal attendant or an enslaved person whose duties included watching clothing and carrying supplies. Roman slavery was a system of coercive legal ownership. Enslaved workers were people whose freedom had been taken from them and whose labor was commanded by others. They should not be treated as decorative figures in a peaceful scene. Some stood for long periods in rooms like this one, guarding garments and holding bathing equipment, while their owners enjoyed the facilities. The bathhouse itself might also provide someone to watch possessions. An attendant known as a capsarius could guard clothing, probably in return for a fee. Depending on the establishment, a capsarius might watch several bundles at once or receive belongings more directly. Not every attendant had the same legal or social position. Some bath workers may have been free employees. Others were freed people, formerly enslaved individuals who had gained legal freedom, though they might still carry obligations to former owners. Still others remained enslaved and were attached to the bathhouse, its management, or a wealthy household. The quiet order of the room depends upon such labor. Floors must be swept, lamps must be trimmed, questions must be answered, supplies must be carried, and objects belonging to bathers must be watched. Near the entrance, an attendant sits upon a narrow stool. A small dish for coins rests nearby. A steady gaze moves from the doorway to the occupied niches and back again. Whether this worker is acting specifically as a capsarius, helping with the general management of the room, or combining several duties, is not announced. Roman workplaces were not always divided into the neat categories that later observers might prefer. The rooms themselves can be equally difficult to label with certainty. Archaeologists may identify changing rooms through their position, benches, niches, decoration, and relationship to neighboring spaces. Yet buildings changed over time. A chamber could be remodeled, divided, or given a different purpose. One room might serve as a changing area during one period, and as a place for waiting, massage, or storage during another. Even within a single day, an open chamber could be used in several ways. It is best then to understand this room not as a rigid stage in one universal Roman routine, but as a practical threshold. Some bathers changed here, others may have prepared elsewhere. Grand imperial complexes, modest urban baths, military bathhouses, and private household suites did not all follow precisely the same arrangement. Customs could vary according to region, schedule, wealth, gender, and local rules. Tonight, however, the room offers everything required. There is a bench, an open niche, and an attentive worker near the door. The floor is clear beneath your feet, though its stone bears the marks of long use. Fine scratches cross the threshold. The lower edge of the wall has darkened where sandals, clothing, and bundles have brushed against it through the years. From an inner doorway comes a mild current of warmer air. It carries the faint scent of olive oil and heated masonry. Somewhere beyond, water is poured into a basin. The sound travels along the passage as a softened echo, lingers for a moment, and fades. You remain beside the bench, allowing your attention to settle upon the room's smallest details. Bronze glows warmly wherever the lamplight touches it. Pale fabric lies folded beside darker wool. A drop of oil shines on the lip of a flask. Sandals rest in quiet rows beneath the benches. Voices stay low, their words blurred by stone walls and distance. Someone adjusts a folded garment in a nearby niche. Someone else checks a fastening on a small bathing kit. The movements are careful and familiar, part of a routine repeated in many forms throughout the Roman world. The outer doorway admits another faint breath of evening. Near that wall, the air remains cool. Closer to the inner passage, warmth rests in the masonry. Between the two, the apoditarium holds its gentle balance, neither street nor bathing chamber, but a pause between them. Here outer clothing is set aside. Dusty sandals are left near the bench. Small possessions are gathered together, watched by their owners, their attendants, or a worker paid to keep them safe. The practical concerns of the day become quieter, though they do not disappear entirely. For a little while, there is nothing more to arrange. Then another current moves through the chamber, cooler than the first. It comes not from the heated rooms, but from an adjacent courtyard open to the evening sky. The air brushes lightly across the doorway and stirs the edge of a hanging cloth. Beyond that doorway, columns frame a quiet open space. Their bases are dim in the deepening light, while the upper stone holds the last cool color of evening. The bathhouse has not yet become fully warm around you, and the hottest chambers can wait a little longer. Your tunic rests securely in its niche. Your few possessions are tucked beneath its folds. Your sandals remain nearby, easy to find when it is time to dress again. With everything settled, you turn toward the cooler air. There is time now for a slow circuit beneath the columns, with unhurried steps across the courtyard and the soft evening sky above. Chapter 4. Gentle Movement in the Palaestra. The doorway leads from the changing room into the cooler evening air. Beyond it lies a modest courtyard, open at the center and bordered on three sides by a covered walkway. Columns support the tiled roof, their pale surfaces taking on the amber color of nearby lamps. Above the court, the sky has deepened from blue to soft gray-violet. The first stars are faint, and the upper edges of the walls still hold a little of the day's warmth. This exercise space is a palaestra. In the grandest Roman bath complexes, a palaestra might be broad and impressive, with long colonnades and room for many kinds of activity. It could be part courtyard, part training ground, and part meeting place. Smaller neighborhood baths did not always have one. Some offered only a narrow yard, a covered hall, or an open passage where visitors could walk and loosen their limbs. The establishment you have entered is neither an enormous imperial complex nor a tiny private bathing suite. Its palaestra is practical and pleasantly proportioned. There is space for a slow circuit beneath the colonnade, a few measured stretches, and a quiet ball exercise. The paving stones are worn smooth in places. Dust has gathered between them, although an attendant has recently swept the covered walkway. You begin beneath the roof, where the evening air moves lightly between the columns. One step follows another along the courtyard's edge, past a stone bench and a low basin filled with water. The sounds of the street are remote now. A cart passes somewhere beyond the bathhouse wall, its rumble softened by distance and masonry. Within the courtyard, there are only quiet footsteps, mild conversation, and air moving through open space. For some Romans, movement before bathing formed part of a familiar routine. They might walk, run, stretch, wrestle, swim, practice light training, or play ball games. Exercise often came before washing and before entering the heated rooms, yet there was no single sequence every visitor had to follow. One person might exercise first, then move from a gently warm chamber into a hotter one, and later toward cooler water. Another might omit exercise. Some bathers lingered in one room, repeated a stage, or followed an order shaped by local custom, personal habit, available time, and the bathhouse's design. The baths allowed many paths through the evening. There is no need to hurry around the courtyard. A slow walk is enough. Near the far wall, another visitor rolls his shoulders and extends one arm, then the other. His movements are measured, rather than athletic. A companion rests on the stone bench, offering an occasional remark in a low voice. Perhaps he has already exercised. Perhaps he has come only for company and for the warm rooms within. The bathhouse can accommodate both choices. Practices varied according to age, wealth, health, gender, period, and community. Women exercised in the Roman world too, although their opportunities and customs were not identical everywhere. Across the long history and wide geography of Roman life, conventions changed. No single arrangement can stand for every town, century, or visitor. Tonight's scene is only one quiet possibility. At the courtyard's open center, three bathers stand several paces apart. A small ball passes among them in easy arcs. Each catch makes a soft sound against the palm. No one calls out, and no score is announced. The ball rises above the paving, hangs for a moment against the darkening sky, and descends into waiting hands. Romans used several kinds of balls and practiced different ball exercises, although the exact rules are often uncertain. Ancient descriptions provide names and scattered details, but they do not always explain precisely how every game was played. One exercise was called trigon, a name connected with three corners. It seems to have involved players throwing a ball among themselves, probably while standing in a triangular arrangement. The scene before you may resemble a gentle form of it, but there is no need to give the exercise a definite name. It is enough to notice the steady rhythm of throwing and catching. The ball is light. It may be a phallus, a bladder-filled ball suited to gentler movement. It does not strike the hands heavily. It passes through the lamplight, briefly catching a warm gleam before falling into shadow again. Elsewhere, Romans played more demanding games. Harpastum appears to have been vigorous, involving more strenuous movement and scrambling around a ball. Nothing so energetic disturbs this courtyard tonight. If a livelier game took place earlier in the day, it has ended, leaving only faint marks in the dust. You continue your circuit beneath the columns. At one corner, the air carries warmth from the inner rooms. At another, it holds the cooler scent of damp paving. The two currents meet beneath the walkway, one mild and warm, the other touched by the open evening. You lift your shoulders slowly and let them settle. Then you loosen your hands and continue walking. The movement is simple, with no competition or test of strength. It belongs to the peaceful interval between the city outside and the heated chambers ahead. The courtyard is a threshold in more than one sense. Behind you are the changing room, the guarded belongings, and the practical arrangements of arrival. Beyond the inner doorway lie warm stone, quiet water, and rooms shaped for bathing. Here, beneath the deepening sky, the body has time to make the transition. Roman medical thought often connected moderate exercise with bathing, massage, diet, and rest. Ancient writers sometimes described these as elements that could be arranged together in the pursuit of health. Recommendations varied according to a person's condition, age, or circumstances. These ideas help us understand how some Romans thought about the body. They are not modern medical science and should not be taken as proven health advice. Roman explanations arose from traditions far removed from modern testing and clinical research. Still, they reveal a recognizable wish to bring movement, cleanliness, nourishment, and repose into a balanced life. Not every visitor would have studied medical writings. Many likely followed local habits, advice from others, or their own experience. Someone tired after physical work might desire no further exertion. An older bather might make one slow circuit beneath the colonnade, while a younger visitor might prefer a lively game. Someone arriving late might walk directly toward the warmth. Tonight, the hour encourages moderation. The light ball crosses the courtyard once more. One of the three players catches it and holds it beneath an arm. Without ceremony, the group turns toward the inner doorway. Their sandals make brief sounds against the paving. Then they pass into the corridor, and the court becomes quieter. You reach the low basin and trail your fingers through its cool water. Small rings widen across the surface. They touch the stone rim and return in overlapping patterns, crossing and softening until the water is still again. Above, the sky has darkened. A star can now be seen clearly between the roof lines, steady and pale. The columns are less distinct than before. Their bases rest in shadow, while their upper edges hold the last muted traces of evening. An attendant brings out a lamp and places it in a wall niche. The flame bends in the moving air, then straightens. Amber light spreads across plaster and stone. The attendant gathers a forgotten cloth from the bench, glances over the courtyard, and quietly withdraws. Such ordinary work keeps the bathhouse ready. Even a modest exercise space must be swept, watched, lit, and maintained. Tonight, that labor remains in the background. You notice only its result: a clear walkway, an orderly bench, and a lamp burning steadily as darkness settles. You begin one final circuit. Your pace slows as the courtyard dims. Footsteps merge with the echoes beneath the roof. Behind the walls, the bathhouse has its own muted pattern of sound. Water is poured from a vessel. A wooden door shifts on its hinge. A few words are spoken and answered. Somewhere deeper within, warmth waits in chambers of stone. The palaestra has offered a calm pause between the city and the sheltered baths. Some visitors have stretched or trained. Some have played with a ball. Others have simply walked, rested, talked, or passed through without exercising at all. There is no single way to move through a Roman bathhouse. Tonight, your path has been quiet. At last, you turn toward the interior. Behind you, dust settles over faint footprints, and the open courtyard rests beneath the evening sky. The basin becomes still. The lamp near the wall burns with a small, even flame. Ahead, amber light lies across a narrow table. Upon it waits a flask of olive oil. Beside the flask rests a curved bronze tool with a smooth handle, its edge catching a slender line of light. The exercise is over. The shoulders are loose, the breathing even, and the city feels farther away than before. In the quieter room beyond, the careful work of cleansing is about to begin. Chapter 5. Oil, Bronze, and the Strigil. The small flask stands where the lamplight can reach it. Its surface is plain, made for use rather than display, and a narrow handle curves from its shoulder. Beside it lies the tool you noticed from the courtyard. It is a strigil, slender at the handle and gently curved along its working edge. Surviving Roman bath sets sometimes include both objects together, a small oil flask accompanied by one or more strigils. Some strigils are bronze, warm in color beneath the lamps. Others are iron, darker and more practical. A visitor might bring such a set to the baths, along with a cloth, sandals, or other personal belongings. You approach the table at an unhurried pace. Behind you, the palaestra has become still. The last of the courtyard air follows through the doorway, carrying the faint coolness of evening. Ahead, the inner rooms offer a gentler warmth. An attendant has folded a cloth near the flask. Whether such an attendant was free, enslaved, hired by the bathhouse, or attached to a private household, would have varied from place to place. Roman baths depended upon many kinds of labor, and the people who performed it occupied very different positions in society. Their work often remained in the background, yet it shaped the bathing experience. Workers kept track of tools and clothing. They replenished oil, swept floors, carried water, and helped with practical stages of grooming. In larger establishments, some might also offer massage or other personal services. The calm order of the room rested partly upon their careful hands. Olive oil is poured in a thin stream. It catches the amber light for a moment before settling into a shallow dish. Olive oil was a common choice for bathing and skin care. Its quality and cost could vary. A modest bather might use ordinary oil without ornament. Someone with greater means might carry a finer preparation, perhaps with a faint scent. Scented oils were available, but they were not universal, and strong perfume was not necessary. What a person used depended upon wealth, local availability, custom, and personal preference. In this quiet room, the oil carries little more than its own mild fragrance, with perhaps the lightest herbal note from something stored nearby. The oil is spread gently over the skin. After movement in the palaestra, it gathers what the day has left behind. Perspiration, fine dust, and surface dirt mingle with the thin layer of oil. The strigil can then be drawn carefully across the skin, lifting the mixture away. This method was closely associated with athletics as well as bathing. The curved scraper became one of the most recognizable objects of Roman grooming, yet it was not the only means of becoming clean. Water washing, sponges, cloths, scraping, massage, and anointing could all form part of a bathing routine. The bronze strigil is lifted from the table. Its handle has grown slightly warm beneath the lamps. Its curved form allows it to follow the skin more readily than a straight edge. Used slowly and with care, it removes the oil without requiring hurried movement. A bather might use the strigil personally, drawing it along an arm or leg before wiping the edge on a cloth. A companion might help. A bath worker might perform the task, or a wealthy visitor might be assisted by an enslaved attendant familiar with that person's habits and preferences. Such assistance could make grooming easier, but it also reflected differences in status. Personal care in Roman society could be intimate and highly conscious of rank. The quality of an oil, the presence of attendants, and the time available for massage, perfuming, or hair care might quietly reveal access to wealth and resources. Even the objects themselves could suggest different circumstances. One bather might own a plain, well-used tool, another might carry a more carefully finished set. Yet beneath these differences, the practical purpose remained much the same. Oil was applied, dust and perspiration were gathered. The curved tool was used to scrape the mixture away. Here, the strigil lightly touches the edge of the bench when it is put down. The sound is small and clear. In another room, water moves within a basin, and then becomes quiet again. Roman bathing customs were never entirely uniform. One person might scrape away oil before entering the warmer rooms. Another might rinse with water first. Someone else might use a sponge or cloth, then apply a little oil afterward. Habits varied with place, preference, age, wealth, and the services available in a particular establishment. Soap-like substances were also known in antiquity. It is inaccurate to say that Romans never used soap. Different cleansing preparations existed, and practices varied among communities and individuals. Even so, oil and scraping remained especially prominent features of Roman bathing culture. The strigil belonged naturally beside the exercise yard, the oil flask, the basin, and the warm interior rooms. Nor should the strigil be imagined as a perfect instrument. Its edge required attention and care. A roughly made tool, or one used too firmly, could be unpleasant. Not every bather welcomed the same pressure, and not everyone followed the same sequence. Strigil use was neither identical for all people, nor medically superior to every other way of washing. It was simply a familiar custom, suited to a daily world of exercise, dusty streets, warm rooms, oil and water. The attendant wipes the bronze and places it beside the flask once more. The folded cloth absorbs the remaining trace of oil. Nothing is rushed. Each object has a place, and every small action marks another step away from the pace of the street. In a larger bathing establishment, grooming might continue in several forms. Massage could follow exercise, hair could be arranged or trimmed. Shaving and depilation, the removal of body hair, were also among the services associated with some baths. Oils might be applied again after washing, sometimes plain and sometimes scented. These services were not equally available to everyone. A grand complex might support attendants offering many kinds of care, while a smaller neighborhood bath could provide only simple assistance. A person with household attendants experienced grooming differently from someone who arrived alone with a cloth and a well-used iron strigil. Personal preference mattered as well. One visitor might enjoy a slow massage after exercise. Another might prefer to finish quickly and move into the warm rooms. Some cared about perfume, hair, and careful presentation. Others wanted only to remove the dust of work or travel. A routine could be elaborate, modest, or somewhere between the two. The bathhouse was therefore both communal and personal. Many visitors passed through the same sequence of rooms, but each carried different habits. One might clean a strigil personally and return it to a small case. Another might rely upon a companion. Someone else might prefer a sponge, a cloth, and water. The characteristic tools of Roman bathing were familiar, but they did not make every experience the same. Even the meaning of grooming could change from one visitor to another. For some it was practical, no more remarkable than brushing dust from sandals. For others it formed part of refinement and public appearance. It could follow athletics, prepare someone for the evening, or simply bring a sense of order after labor. Yet beneath all these differences were the same quiet gestures. A flask was opened. A cloth was unfolded. Oil glinted beneath an amber lamp. Bronze warmed in the hand. You remain for a while beside the narrow table. Lamplight gathers along the smooth curve of the strigil. The oil flask casts a short shadow across the stone. Nearby, an attendant rinses the shallow dish and leaves it inverted to dry. The faint olive scent soon recedes into the warmer air. The last trace of courtyard dust has been wiped away. The tools are cleaned and returned to their place, ready for another visitor or secured among personal belongings. Voices drift farther along the bathing route, softened by walls and distance. Beyond the next doorway lies a gentler light. The air there does not carry the stronger heat of the hottest chamber. It holds an even, patient warmth, easing the passage from exercise and grooming toward the heated heart of the baths. You set aside the cloth. Behind you remain the little flask, the bronze curve of the strigil, and the modest instruments of Roman care. A drop of water slips from the edge of the rinsed dish. Somewhere beyond the wall, a basin answers with a quiet echo. Then warmth begins at the soles of your feet. The nearby doorway opens into the tepidarium, where benches wait beneath muted lamps, and the stone itself seems to hold the evening's quiet heat. Chapter 6. The Tepidarium. You cross the threshold slowly, and the warmth gathers around you. It is not the fuller heat that waits deeper within the bathhouse. It does not press against your face or make the air feel heavy. Instead, it arrives by degrees. First, you feel it through the soles of your feet. Then it comes from the bench beside the wall, and finally from the room itself. The tepidarium is a moderately heated chamber. It often stands between cooler and hotter spaces, allowing the change in temperature to feel gradual and gentle. The door closes behind you with a softened wooden sound. For a moment, nothing seems to move except the small flames of the lamps. Their amber light does not reach every corner. It rests in quiet patches upon the floor, then touches the lower edges of the painted walls. Higher up, portions of the chamber remain in shadow. A vaulted ceiling gathers the faintest sounds and returns them as softened echoes. There is the light movement of a sandal, the settling of water in a basin, and a low conversation somewhere beyond an archway. No single design belonged to every Roman tepidarium. In one town, the room might be broad and richly decorated, part of a great public complex built by an emperor or a prosperous city. Elsewhere it might be modest, with painted plaster, a patterned floor, and only a few stone benches. A private bath suite in a large house could have a warm chamber, small enough for only a handful of people. Even the arrangement and order of the rooms could vary. Here, the tepidarium is comfortably proportioned. It is large enough to feel open, but not so large that its warmth becomes lost beneath the vault. Benches follow two walls, shallow niches hold lamps and a few small vessels. Near one end stands a basin of warm water, its surface almost still. Some tepidaria contained warm pools or basins, others were mainly heated chambers for resting, oiling the skin, massage, or quiet conversation before moving onward. There was no universal temperature for the room. Its warmth depended on the weather, the design of the building, the strength of the furnace, and the care with which the heating system was managed. On a cold evening, the tepidarium might feel especially welcoming. During warmer weather, less heating might be needed. A large and busy bathhouse could be managed differently from a small establishment nearing its closing hour. Roman attendants worked with masonry, fuel, airflow, and long experience. There was no modern thermostat displaying a precise number. You sit upon the bench. Its surface holds an even warmth. The stone is not hot. It simply gives back some of the heat it has received, as though a little of the day remains within it. A folded cloth makes the seat more comfortable. Nearby, a drop of water slips from the rim of the basin. It darkens the floor, then becomes still. Beneath some tepidaria lay part of the heating system known as a hypocaust. A furnace directed hot air into a cavity below a raised floor. The floor could stand upon many short pillars made from stacked brick or tile. These little pillars were called pilae. Arranged in rows, they created an open space through which furnace heat could pass beneath the room. The floor above had to be made with care. It needed to span the pillars, support the people and furnishings overhead, and endure repeated warming and cooling. Layers of tile, mortar, and paving formed a solid surface over the hidden cavity. No one resting here can see the warm air moving below. Its presence is known only through the mild heat rising through the floor. In some bathhouses, hollow box tiles or channels carried warm air through portions of the walls. These wall flues helped warm the masonry and guided the heated air upward. Construction methods varied, however. Not every wall was heated, and not every bathhouse placed a hypocaust beneath every room. A tepidarium might receive part of its warmth simply because it stood close to the hotter chamber. In some smaller bathhouses, braziers could provide heat instead. Each building had its own arrangement, shaped by available space, materials, expense, and local practice. The warm room should not automatically be imagined as a modern sauna or as a chamber filled with dense steam. Tonight the air is mild, with only a trace of moisture near the basin. The walls remain clear. The lamps burn steadily. You can see a painted border running above the benches, though it appears and disappears as the flames shift. One narrow panel contains curling leaves painted in dark green. Another has a simple red line framing a pale field. Above it, molded stucco forms a shallow pattern of shells and vines. Stucco is shaped or painted plaster used for decoration. In the lamplight, its raised edges catch a little brightness, while its hollows remain softly shaded. Across the floor, a mosaic forms a repeating arrangement of black and cream shapes. A mosaic is an image or pattern assembled from small pieces of stone, ceramic, or glass. The pieces beneath your feet are simple and durable. They make no grand picture, yet their measured geometry lends a quiet order to the room. In a more splendid imperial bath, mosaics might spread across enormous halls. Walls could be adorned with colorful stone, sculptural details, and marble veneer. Marble veneer did not mean that an entire wall was made from solid marble. Thin decorative slabs could be fixed over ordinary masonry, creating polished colors and rich patterns without requiring solid blocks throughout. A modest neighborhood bath could not display such abundance. Painted plaster might take the place of costly stone. A patterned floor might be made from local materials. Niches could be neatly shaped but hold no statues. Even so, modest decoration was still decoration, chosen to make an everyday room pleasant. Beauty did not always require grandeur. Sometimes it appeared in a clean border, a balanced pattern, or the warm color of plaster beneath an oil lamp. The voices at the far end of the chamber remain low. Two bathers speak without urgency. They pause often enough for the quieter sounds of the room to return between their words. An attendant passes through carrying folded cloths. Soft sandals cross the mosaic, then fade into a neighboring passage. The bathhouse offers a place for conversation, but it also leaves room for silence. You need not speak. The warmth asks for no answer. Perhaps oil is applied here before another stage of bathing. Perhaps tired shoulders are rubbed by practiced hands. Perhaps someone waits upon the bench while a companion finishes in another chamber. Roman habits differed from one person to another, and from one community to the next. There was no single bathing sequence followed everywhere without exception. Moving from cool surroundings into warmth, and then into greater heat, was familiar in many baths. Yet people could choose differently according to age, custom, preference, or circumstance. Alternating temperatures should not be treated as offering guaranteed medical benefits. Ancient writers expressed many opinions about bathing and health, but experiences differed. For you, during this quiet hour, the tepidarium is simply a place of gradual change. You rest your hand against the bench. Its warmth has no visible source. Heat has traveled from burning fuel into moving air, from the air into brick and tile, and from the masonry into the chamber. It has crossed hidden spaces and settled into the surfaces around you. Even the wall beside the bench seems gently tempered, neither cool nor hot. A little warmth rises from the basin. There are no thick clouds of vapor. There is only the faintest softness above the water, vanishing whenever you try to follow it. The reflected flame of a lamp stretches across the surface. It breaks at the stone rim, then appears again as a quiet shimmer upon the wall. You remain upon the bench while the room does its patient work. Warmth reaches through the folded cloth beneath you. It lingers in the floor. It rests within the wall. It settles in the air without seeming to move. Time in such a chamber can become difficult to measure. The lamps continue their small, steady burning. Quiet water remains within its stone boundary. The mosaic waits beneath unhurried feet. Beyond the walls, attendants tend the building, and somewhere near the furnace, another piece of fuel is placed upon the fire. The labor remains out of sight, but its result surrounds you. The calm of the chamber depends upon those hidden efforts, upon the furnace, the channels, the carefully built floor, and the people who keep the system working. For now there is only warm stone and softened light. Another drop gathers at the edge of the basin. It grows slowly, catches the reflection of a lamp, and falls. The sound is very small. The vaulted ceiling receives it and returns a faint echo. After a long and comfortable pause, you begin to notice the next doorway. At first it is only a darker opening beyond the lamps. Then a fuller warmth reaches through it. At this distance, the heat is still gentle, but it is unmistakable. The tepidarium has allowed the change to come slowly. Floor, bench, wall, and air have each offered their portion of warmth. Nothing has arrived all at once. You rise without haste. Behind you, the warm chamber keeps its quiet water, softened echoes, and paintings revealed only in fragments of amber light. Ahead lies the caldarium, the hotter room, closer to the furnace and its hidden work. The air beyond the doorway feels deeper and warmer. It waits on the other side of the quiet threshold. Chapter 7. The Caldarium. You pause at the threshold, allowing the warmer air to reach you before you enter. The change is clear, though not abrupt. The tepidarium has prepared you well. Its gentle warmth remains behind, while the caldarium, also called the calidarium, holds a deeper and steadier heat. You cross the threshold without haste. Your sandals meet the warm paving carefully. In some Roman baths, people may have worn wooden-soled footwear or simple bath sandals in the hottest rooms, because floors near the furnace could become uncomfortable beneath bare feet. Practice is varied, however, from one establishment to another. Here, it is enough to move slowly and feel the warmth rising through the stone. Amber lamplight rests upon the walls. It gathers in shallow hollows and stretches across polished surfaces, softening the edges of the chamber. The air is humid, touched by warm water, but the room is not hidden within a dense cloud of steam. You can still see the benches along the walls, the outlines of columns, and the quiet basin ahead. This is the alveus, the hot water bathing pool of the caldarium. Its stone edge has stored the heat of the room. Across the water, amber reflections bend and lengthen whenever the surface stirs. A bather seated nearby lifts a small vessel and pours water slowly over one shoulder. The stream makes a low, brief sound before joining the pool in widening circles. You approach the edge and rest for a moment beside the warm stone. Not far from the alveus stands another feature, a raised basin called a labrum. It usually holds cooler water. A bather might use a little to splash the face or refresh the skin after lingering in the warmer part of the room. The contrast is simple and welcome. A hand enters the basin, lifts a shining measure of water, and lets it fall quietly over the wrists. A few drops remain upon the rim before slipping back into the bowl. The caldarium was commonly placed nearest the furnace, where it could receive the strongest heat. Roman builders arranged heated chambers with care. The hottest rooms stood close to the source of warmth. The tepidarium could be placed a little farther away, receiving a gentler heat, while cooler spaces waited beyond. In this way, architecture helped create a gradual journey. Warmth did not arrive all at once. Each doorway offered a small change in air, water, stone, and light. Beneath the calm surfaces of the caldarium lies the hypocaust. Its workings are hidden, yet they can be understood one quiet stage at a time. First, there is the furnace. It stands in a service area behind or beside the bathing rooms, separated from the places where bathers sit and walk. There is no open fire burning directly beneath each person, and no separate flame under every occupied chamber. Instead, one or more furnaces supply heat according to the size and arrangement of the bathhouse. Workers keep the furnace burning at a steady rate. From there, hot gases enter a cavity beneath the raised floor. The floor does not rest directly upon solid ground. It is supported by many short pillars called pilae. Arranged in orderly rows, these small supports hold the floor above, while leaving open passages below. The heated gases move between them, carrying warmth through the concealed space. Above the pilae rest strong layers that form the floor of the room. Heat passes upward through these layers and enters the paving beneath your feet. The stone is not warm because flames touch it. The fire remains in the service area. What reaches the caldarium is the heat carried from that furnace through the hidden cavity. In some bathhouses, channels within the walls help warm the room as well. These wall flues carry heated gases upward through the masonry. The floor and walls work together, surrounding the chamber with an even, lasting warmth. Furnace, underfloor cavity, rows of pilae, channels rising through the walls, and at last, this quiet room of warm stone and gently moving water. The arrangement is complex, though its effect upon the bather feels simple. Warmth rises beneath your feet. The walls return a softer heat. The alveus holds hot water. Nothing inside the occupied room needs to blaze or crackle. Thick smoke drifting among the bathers would suggest poor operation. Smoke, soot, and ash belong more naturally to the furnace and service spaces beyond the walls. Here in the caldarium, fire makes itself known only indirectly through warm tile, heated water, and the muted presence of work behind the masonry. The furnace also heats metal water tanks or boilers. These provide hot and warm water for the baths. Water and fire must be managed together, each in the proper measure. The pools need a continuing supply, and the furnace must remain steady enough to heat them. From somewhere beyond the wall comes a dull, distant sound. Perhaps it is fuel being set down or a service door closing. The noise is soft enough to blend with the movement of water. No one in the chamber turns toward it. Yet it reminds you that the warmth does not maintain itself. Fuel must be carried, stored, and fed to the furnace. The fire must be watched and skillfully stoked. Ash must be removed. Water must be directed where it is needed. Floors, channels, boilers, and walls require inspection and repair. The hidden cavity beneath the floor is not filled with workers moving among open flames. The furnace feeds heat into the hypocaust from outside the occupied room. Any work below the floor would require care, proper access, and a system cool enough to approach safely. A large establishment depends upon a team rather than a single unseen worker. Some people tend the furnace, others manage the water, remove ash, clean rooms, maintain lamps, guard belongings, or carry out repairs. These workers might be enslaved, free, or free laborers. Their duties and circumstances vary, just as Roman bathhouses vary from place to place. Much of this labor remains hidden from the comfortable visitor, yet every warm surface offers quiet evidence of it. The alveus remains heated because water and fuel have been carefully managed. The floor holds its warmth because the furnace continues to burn. The lamps glow because oil has been supplied and the wicks have been tended. The peaceful comfort of the caldarium rests upon architecture, resources, skill, and continual human effort. You settle near the edge of the pool, where the stone has been made smooth by long use. Water moves around the steps in small, overlapping lines. The heat is steady rather than dramatic. There is no need to prove endurance here. Some bathers remain only a short while, others linger according to habit, age, health, and preference. Across the chamber, someone reaches toward the labrum. Cooler water is lifted and poured slowly. For an instant, the drops shine in the amber light like pale beads. Then they disappear against warm skin and stone. Conversation is sparse. A few words pass between acquaintances, softened by the shape of the chamber. Another bather rests in silence, arms laid lightly along the pool's edge. Water touches the tiled sides with a repeating sound. Never quite identical, yet always familiar. You cannot see the entire heating system, but you can imagine its quiet order. Below you, rows of pylons stand in darkness, supporting the floor. Beyond the wall, a furnace sends heat into concealed passages. Within parts of the masonry, channels carry that warmth upward. Around you, stone accepts the heat and releases it gradually into the room. Behind these hidden paths, a team of workers continues its careful routine. Fuel is brought forward, the furnace is watched, water levels are managed, ash is cleared away, repairs are made when they are needed. The bathers may hear only an occasional muted thud through the wall. The labor remains distant. For all the engineering beneath and around you, the experience itself remains unhurried. There is only the mild weight of heated air, the smooth rim of the basin, and the amber movement of reflected lamplight. You lift a little warm water and let it pass over your hands. It streams between your fingers and returns to the pool. The ripples travel outward, touching the steps, the wall, and the wavering reflections of the lamps. Then the surface becomes still once more. After a time, you rise from the edge of the alveus. There is no sudden movement, only a gradual return to your feet. The paving is warm beneath your sandals. The walls seem to hold the memory of the furnace, returning its heat in a softer form. At the labrum, cooler water offers a gentle pause. You let a little pass over your palms and wrists. It gathers briefly in the lines of your hands, then falls in quiet drops. One drop lands upon the floor, another follows. Each sound rises lightly toward the ceiling and comes back as a softened echo. There is no need to hurry toward another chamber. After the heat of the caldarium, rest feels natural. Nearby, an alcove or bench-lined room offers a place where the warmth lingers without the full heat of the pool. A few remaining bathers have gathered there. Their voices are low and measured, rounded by stone and by the nearby sound of water. They speak without urgency, leaving calm spaces between one thought and the next. You move toward them slowly, carrying the warmth of the caldarium with you. Behind you, amber reflections continue to travel across the alveus. Cooler water waits in the raised labrum. Beneath the floor, heat follows its hidden paths between the pylons. Beyond the masonry, workers keep the furnace steady. And ahead, in the quieter room, conversation settles into an easy flow. Chapter 8. Quiet Conversations. You enter the bench-lined alcove with the warmth of the caldarium still resting lightly across your shoulders. Here the air is comfortable rather than hot. It carries faint scents of olive oil, damp stone, and smoke from lamps placed safely in wall niches. Their flames are small and steady. Amber light touches the edges of the benches, then settles into the shallow folds of cloths and robes. Only a few bathers remain. The late hour has softened the usual movement of the building. One man sits with his elbows resting on his knees, listening while an older companion speaks. Across the room, two others share a quiet observation, then fall silent. An attendant passes through the doorway, tearing folded cloths. His sandals make a gentle brushing sound against the floor. No one asks you to speak. There is space enough to sit and simply listen. A name is mentioned, followed by the name of a street. Someone asks whether a ship has reached the river landing. A cup touches a stone ledge with a quiet note. Then water, flowing somewhere beyond the wall, fills the silence again. For Romans, a bathhouse is seldom only a place to wash. It is also a place to encounter other people. Friends arrange to meet here. Merchants recognize customers. Craftspeople exchange local news. A person seeking work may hope for an introduction to someone who can provide it. A client may wait for a patron, and a patron may receive greetings from several clients. Business can be discussed, favors requested, and small agreements reached. Yet not every conversation needs to have a purpose. Some visitors come simply because familiar company is pleasant. At busier hours, the voices would be louder and more numerous. The Roman writer Seneca famously described the many noises rising from a bathhouse below his rooms. He heard exercise, splashing, vendors calling, grooming workers at their tasks, and bathers raising their voices. His account is memorable because it reminds us that Roman baths were not naturally silent places. The quiet around you belongs to this particular evening. Many public baths ordinarily closed around dusk, though schedules varied by place and period. This may be an exceptional late opening, a special local occasion, or a bathhouse kept open for a smaller group after the usual crowd has departed. Whatever the reason, enough people remain to make the rooms feel companionable, but not enough to disturb the calm. At another hour, you might hear a public reading. Someone might recite a letter, a poem, or a passage from a new work while acquaintances listened. Elsewhere, a barber might trim hair, or another grooming worker might attend to a customer. Visitors could pause to watch exercise in the palaestra. They might also purchase a light refreshment from a vendor nearby. Food stalls and small shops sometimes stood near bathing complexes, serving people as they entered or left. Food, however, would not ordinarily be spread casually beside the bathing pools. In the warm chambers, water and stone remain the central presence. The largest imperial bathing complexes could contain much more than a sequence of warm and cool rooms. Some included gardens, broad colonnades, meeting rooms, libraries, shops, and monumental works of art. Long covered walks offered shade and space for conversation. Courtyards might contain imposing statues, while adjoining rooms allowed visitors to read, meet, or rest. This bathhouse is more modest. It belongs to a busy town, but it is not one of the immense complexes built by emperors. There is no need to imagine a library behind every doorway, or a monumental sculpture in every corner. Here there are bathing chambers, an exercise court, practical service rooms, and a few sheltered places where people may sit. A vendor may wait near the entrance, and a small courtyard offers fresh air during the day. Its scale suits the neighborhood it serves. Within that neighborhood, many kinds of people may pass through its doors. Patrons and clients, officials, merchants, soldiers, craftspeople, freed people, women, children, and enslaved attendants all belong to Roman urban life. Small finds from baths, including pins, jewelry, gaming pieces, coins, containers, and other everyday belongings, suggest a wider range of visitors and activities than elite male literary sources alone describe. Yet the bathhouse does not erase the divisions of Roman society. A wealthy visitor may arrive with fine bathing equipment and a personal attendant. A laborer may carry only what is necessary. A patron commands attention that a client does not. An official may be greeted with particular care, while another person passes almost unnoticed. A freed person was someone who had formerly been enslaved and was later legally manumitted. Such a person possessed recognized legal freedom, but might still have obligations to a former owner who had become a patron. Freedom changed a person's legal position, yet it did not make every social distinction disappear. Enslaved people perform much of the work that makes an evening in the baths possible. They tend furnaces, carry fuel and water, clean floors, guard clothing, fold cloths, and assist bathers. Some accompany owners as personal attendants. Their labor remains present, even when the workers themselves stay in service passages or at the edge of the room. Whether enslaved people could visit baths independently is less clearly documented. Such access would have depended on local practice, and often on an owner's will. Their experiences cannot be assumed to have matched those of free visitors. This understanding settles quietly into the chamber. Warmth and beauty can exist beside inequality, and to understand the bathhouse, it is necessary to notice both. The smooth floor, the folded cloths, and the heated rooms have all required labor. Comfort is present, but it has never been shared in precisely the same way. Access also varies for women and men. No single empire-wide rule governed the use of Roman baths in every century and every region. Some establishments had separate bathing suites. At the Stabian baths in Pompeii, for example, the arrangement includes distinct sections, generally understood as facilities for men and women. Other bathhouses may have assigned the same rooms to women and men at different hours. Mixed bathing also occurred in some places and periods. Roman authorities and moralizing writers repeatedly criticized or attempted to regulate it, suggesting that daily practice did not always follow official preference. Customs changed over time, and local arrangements mattered. Women's facilities could be smaller or less elaborate in some bathhouses, though this was not universal. Wealth, status, region, family custom, and the design of the building all shaped an individual experience. Tonight's late opening may belong to a particular group, while others used the rooms earlier. Or this establishment may follow a local arrangement now lost to history. The lamps reveal only a single evening, not a pattern for the whole Roman world. Nearby, someone begins to describe repairs being made to a shop awning. The explanation is brief. A second voice offers the name of a reliable craftsperson. No bargain is completed, and no urgent decision is required. The words drift beneath the curved ceiling, become indistinct, and fade. In a recess beyond the benches, an attendant pours water into a small cup. The narrow stream makes a clear silver sound. He offers it to an older bather, who accepts with a nod. Other refreshments may be available near the entrance, but here there is only water, warm stone, and the lingering comfort of the heated rooms. You remain seated while conversation moves gently around you. A family name, a greeting to be carried home, news that a relative has arrived safely. None of it holds the whole room for long. Each fragment appears, lingers for a moment, and then recedes, like lamplight trembling upon the surface of a basin. This may be one reason bathhouses mattered so deeply in Roman towns. They allowed ordinary paths to cross. People who spent the day in workshops, offices, barracks, markets, or homes could enter the same building, even if they did not share equal standing within it. Repeated visits made faces familiar. A nod could become a conversation. A conversation might become an introduction, a promise of work, a favor requested, or simply the comfort of being recognized. Friends could exchange news. Clients might seek patrons. Merchants might greet customers. To a reading, receive brooming, watch exercise, or pause near the entrance for a light refreshment. And some visitors preferred not to speak at all. A person could rest against the warm stone and listen to the softened rhythm of other voices. Sociability did not always require active participation. To sit among familiar sounds, without being called upon to answer, could be enough. After a while, one bather rises and wraps a cloth around himself before leaving through the farther doorway. Another finishes his thought, then rests his head against the wall. The attendant collects the empty cup. The room grows quieter without becoming empty. The heat you carried from the caldarium has eased into a mild and even warmth. Your breathing has settled. Beyond the alcove, the bathhouse continues through arches and corridors, each chamber holding its own temperature, its own echoes, and its own pattern of light. You stand without haste. Behind you, conversation continues in low fragments, but the words become less distinct with every step. A name, a murmur of agreement, the faint touch of a cup against stone. Then water fills the spaces between. Ahead, a cooler current reaches through an open doorway. It carries the faint mineral scent of unheated water and the echo of a single drop falling in a larger chamber. Chapter 9. The Frigidarium. The cooler current reaches you before you cross the threshold. It moves gently through the doorway, passing over warm skin and carrying the quiet scent of stone, water, and painted plaster. You pause beneath the arch and allow the change to arrive gradually. Behind you, the warmer rooms soften into amber shadow. Ahead lies the frigidarium, the cool or unheated chamber of the bathhouse. Cold in this room is a relative thing. The water has not been chilled by machinery. It simply has not been warmed by the furnaces. Its temperature depends upon its source, the season, the local climate, and the time it is spent waiting in channels or storage. On a summer evening, it may feel pleasantly cool. In colder weather, it may hold a sharper edge. Every bathhouse, like every town, has its own conditions. You remain at the doorway for another moment. The floor beneath your sandals is no longer warm. The walls no longer release the stored breath of the furnace. Even the air seems clearer and less weighted with heat and vapor. A few lamps rest in shallow niches, their flames small and steady. The light they give is modest, yet the chamber appears brighter than expected. Water multiplies the glow. Each lamp becomes a wavering line upon the pool. Amber light travels across tiny ripples, touches the base of a column, and breaks into fragments along the damp edge of the basin. Where the floor is polished, another reflection waits. Where mosaic stones have been set into a pattern, pale pieces catch the light, while darker pieces recede. A room does not need to be covered in costly marble to seem impressive. Careful proportions can give it dignity. Painted plaster can suggest depth and color. A border of dark cream and red mosaic can guide the eye around the pool. Shadow can make a modest arch appear deeper, while reflected light can make a low ceiling seem to drift above the water. This bathhouse is comfortable, but not enormous. Its frigidarium holds a single basin, broad enough for several people, yet small enough for a quiet voice to cross without effort. Stone benches line two walls. A pair of columns stands near the water, supporting arches that divide the chamber into gentle shapes. In one corner, water enters through a simple spout. It falls in a narrow stream, barely disturbing the surface. The sound rises toward the ceiling and returns as a softened echo. Water, then stone, then silence. In the grand imperial bath complexes, a frigidarium might be far larger than this. It could form an immense vaulted hall, surrounded by columns and containing several pools. Visitors might cross a wide expanse of patterned floor beneath a ceiling that seemed to float high above them. Yet Roman baths differed greatly. A modest urban bathhouse might have a compact cool room with only one basin. A private bathing suite could be smaller still. The effect of such a chamber came not only from size or expensive materials, but from proportion, shadow, painted surfaces, and the patient reflections of water. The purpose remained familiar even when the architecture changed. Some visitors came to the frigidarium after the hottest rooms, allowing the unheated water to mark the end of their bathing. Others entered earlier. Some returned more than once. Some merely washed their hands and face or rested beside the basin. Others omitted the cold water entirely. There was no single compulsory order followed by every visitor in every bathhouse. The familiar movement, from warm to hot to cool, is useful for understanding Roman bathing, but real people made their own choices. Customs varied from place to place, and the arrangement of each building helped shape the route through it. You approach the basin at your own quiet pace. Its rim has been smoothed by many resting hands. The pool does not resemble a modern swimming pool in every detail. There is no smell of chlorine, no mechanical filtration humming nearby, and no bright light shining from beneath the surface. Under the weak lamplight, the deeper part of the basin becomes dark. Near the edge, the floor can be glimpsed beneath the moving surface. Small mosaic pieces form a simple pattern of waves, and the design bends whenever the water stirs. You sit upon the rim and lower one hand. The first touch is cool after the caldarium and the long, mild warmth of conversation. There is no need to hurry farther. Water gathers around your fingers and slips between them. When you lift your hand, droplets fall one by one. Each makes a ring that widens across the reflected lamps. One ring meets another. For a moment, the columns seem to move in the water. Their pale reflections stretch, break, and form again. An amber flame travels toward them, narrowing into a bright thread before fading beneath the shadow of an arch. Elsewhere in the chamber, another visitor sits with both feet in the basin. He speaks to no one. A folded cloth rests beside him, and his gaze follows the ripples without urgency. Near the spout, an attendant checks that the channel remains clear. The work is done quietly, with a practiced glance and the brief movement of a hand. Another bather chooses a short immersion. He enters by the shallow steps, pauses, and lowers himself into the water without drama. Soon he rises again and reaches for a cloth. Not everyone would make the same choice. Full immersion was an option, not a rule. A visitor might place only hands or feet in the pool. Someone else might pause at the edge and never enter at all. You may remain where you are. You may let the water cover only your feet, or pass your damp hand across your arms and face. The chamber allows for small choices. Coolness settles gradually where the heated air had lingered. The transition is noticeable, yet gentle. In some grand bath complexes, visitors might also find an attatio. This was a larger swimming pool, often outdoors, or set within a monumental open space. Its broad surface could reflect the sky and the architecture around it. But a natatio should not be assumed to exist in every bathhouse, nor should every pool within a frigidarium automatically be called a natatio. Many baths had no large swimming pool at all. This room contains only its quiet basin, intended for cool bathing rather than long movement beneath an open sky. Here everything remains small and unhurried. A foot trails through the water. A cloth is folded. Sandals touch the mosaic floor with a soft scrape. The stream from the spout continues its patient descent, and every sound acquires a second life in the chamber's echo. A drop falls. The sound rises into the arches, becomes softer, and returns. The lamps burn lower than they did earlier. Their flames lean when a faint current passes through the doorway, then straighten once more. Reflections gather beneath them, trembling upon the pool and shining briefly across wet stone. You withdraw your hand and watch the final droplets fall. The warmth of the central rooms has receded. It remains as a quiet memory held within the body and within the stones beyond the doorway. Here the cooler air brings the evening nearer. The bathhouse seems less enclosed than before, as though the night outside has sent a small breath through its corridors. Still, the room is not cold in any fixed or certain way. Unheated water changes with place and season. In one town it may be fed from a source that keeps it cool. In another, stored water may have been touched by the warmth of the day. Even within the same bathhouse, the sensation could change as summer gave way to autumn and autumn to winter. For now the temperature is enough to ease you away from the deepest warmth. You stand and take the cloth offered by the attendant. Water is pressed gently from your hands and feet. Around you the frigidarium continues in muted shades of ochre, amber, and gray. There is simple plaster, dark mosaic, pale stone, and a pool that turns every lamp into moving gold. Another visitor rises from the bench. His sandals cross the floor and disappear through a side doorway. For a few breaths, only the stream can be heard. Then comes a faint ripple, a quiet echo, the soft movement of air beneath the arch. The calm appearance of the frigidarium rests upon more than water and lamplight. Beneath the floors, behind the walls, and beyond the doors used mainly by workers, another part of the bathhouse continues its labor. Water must arrive. Used water must be carried away. Furnaces must be fed, surfaces maintained, and channels watched. Most visitors see only the peaceful result. As the last ripple reaches the edge of the basin, your attention follows the faint sound of running water toward the hidden passages behind the warm walls.